Welcome back, everybody, to the Always Bayern Chelsea show today, Wednesday, September 17th. We're fresh off of the first ABC Always Bayern Chelsea matchup in the history of the show. We live streamed it, so go ahead, check that out if you want our live, raw reactions during the match to everything. We'll make some clips too. But here we are giving you a full breakdown, match reaction, recorded video style. Now that we've had maybe about 10 minutes to think about the match, we're here to analyze things for you. So welcome to the show. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content just like this. And you know, every match we're out there covering things, and we're really trying to up the ante. So would appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, go check that out. It was an exciting match, and you know, I think if you were watching, you probably enjoyed what you saw, watching two fans going against each other. So exciting match, as I said, and there will only be more exciting matches down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why Jim might sound a little bit dejected, the final score was 3-1. So Bayern came out with the win, 3-1, opening up the Champions League campaign, first match of the new Champions League season with this new format, league phase. It was also at home, so Bayern, I think, really needed to come out and put up a strong showing like they did. Again, they got Arsenal and PSG on the road coming up, so it's not going to be a walk in the park, and Chelsea's definitely not a walk in the park, so it was really good for Bayern to get the win. From my standpoint, the match was really open in the first half, just broadly. I think both teams were pretty even, and then I think second half Bayern pretty much dominated and really executed the game like they wanted to. So that's how we got to the final score of 3-1.
Yeah, it's a good win for Bayern. Puts them in a really strong position to start off the Champions League phase. If I'm Chelsea, I learned a few things about some individual players. I take essentially nothing away from this game on a team level. I don't think you look at anything and affect the way you go about any other matches the rest of the year if you're Enzo Maresca. I think if you're Maresca, you had your perfect plan. You executed it perfectly. Your players let you down on the day. So if I'm Enzo, I'm fairly neutral on this match. You know, you're going to be upset at players, like I said, but I don't think it changes the way that Chelsea will look at anything going forward.
Yeah, so from an overview of this match, we did see the first goal was an own goal from Chalobah. Olise kind of plays in a cross, tries to find Upa, but it goes off Chalobah's knee before it even gets to Upa, and Bayern takes the lead 1-0 there. Then Harry Kane gets a pen, gets taken down in the box by Caicedo, but shortly after that pen, Palmer really just cuts through the midfield and bangs in an incredible goal, 2-1 there. And then Bayern has a period in the second half where they're just peppering in shots, and one of them falls, and it's Kane's shot off of a Gusto mistake. So that's how we get to 3-1. But again, like second half, Bayern just kind of controlled the flow of the game, whereas the first half things were a lot more chaotic. So I think both teams missed a couple of chances that they probably would have wanted back. But yeah, overall, it's not easy to go into Munich, and really for anybody. So I do think Chelsea put up a good fight for a significant part of the match.
Yeah, and that's why it's frustrating. You make three major individual mistakes. A lot of the peppering of shots that Bayern had in that second half are what I expected to happen at points in the game. I think you go in expecting to probably give up at least a couple goals. So that's why it's a shame that you give up three that had essentially nothing to do with that. And that's the annoying thing as a Chelsea fan for me today. I think that's what the players will go home and really think hard about. It's those individual mistakes that ultimately cost you. I think if you take those away, it's probably a really close game. Maybe Bayern still win, maybe Chelsea win. Who knows? It could be a draw. So that's what's tough. That second half as well, you really can put it on the players, because I think there's a lot of halves we've seen with Chelsea in this young team where they just turn off, and it's almost like they just forget that they're playing at times. Bayern dominate really the last 35 minutes. Chelsea maybe look good the first 10 in the second half. Chelsea do that far too often, and I think that is a little frustrating as well.
Yeah, and I think, from the Bayern side, that's also where Bayern's supreme experience comes in. And that's something that's always going to be helpful. Bayern's always going to be able to lean on, while they don't have the youngest, fastest team necessarily, they have tons and tons and tons of experience and guys who have shown time and time again that they can step up under the brightest of lights. So that's one thing that if you're Bayern, you're just going to rely on heavily in these matches, especially in Munich. So yeah, that's how I look at it from Bayern's point of view, and glad that they got the job done after maybe a period of about 10-15 minutes in the first half that was just like totally chaotic. So yeah, overall a solid match from Bayern. I don't think there were a lot of guys who individually like totally blew me away, but it's just the normal cast of characters who you expect to be solid. Neuer, Kane, Kimmich, Bayern's their entire attack I thought was really solid. Gnabry, Olise, and Diaz. Now, there were a few shots here and there. Olise's was the biggest. Kane had one. Diaz had one that they missed that they should have done better with. But that being said, their attack was all over the place and just causing headaches for Chelsea's defense. So even though, Serge, I think, is credited with an assist, even though that was really a gusto mistake to Kane there. My point is, even though guys like Diaz and Olise aren't on the score sheet, I still think that they did a good job in creating chances and creating havoc really in the attack.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the frustrating thing as a Chelsea fan, because you take away those 3 boneheaded mistakes, and I know that's a lot to say to take away, but I would have felt really good about the way they played against this Bayern team. Again, against any good team, you are going to allow a solid amount of good chances. That's the reality of football. Unless you're playing a low block and not trying to do anything yourself, you're going to allow good chances. So the fact that Bayern did get those, Sanchez comes up with a couple big saves, that's expected. And I think if we just would have seen that, it would have been a really awesome match. That's, to me, again, what's just disappointing. I'm thinking back, if I'm a neutral fan watching this, it's disappointing when you see a team just make these dumb mistakes, because it kind of ruins what could have been a beautiful match. And if you're a Bayern fan, it's a win, so it was a beautiful match, but that was just unfortunate. Just unfortunate. It's just tough to grade a match for a Chelsea fan here when that happens, and it's just tough.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I think, regardless of mistakes or not, it was an exciting match, at least, obviously more exciting for me, but it was an exciting match. 4 goals were scored, and it was end-to-end attack, which is, to me, what makes things exciting. I like how Chelsea came out and played. You mentioned you think Maresca had a good plan, and I would agree. I like how Chelsea came out and played. They were aggressive. They tried to score. Palmer was pressing like a madman all match, and huge credit to Palmer, arguably the best player on the pitch. But let's just run through some lineups really quickly here. From the Bayern side, you saw Neuer. Very good game from Neuer. Wasn't tested a ton, and the time that Chelsea did score that Palmer goal, nothing he could have done. No keeper in the world. A 10-foot tall keeper isn't saving that one. That's how good of a shot it was from Palmer. So very solid game from Neuer, I thought. At times playing in the midfield as he does. Leimer was the right back to start. Stanisic was the left back, and then Upa and Ta were the center backs. Not as bad of a performance from the back line as it could have been, especially considering the circumstances, which is Stanisic going down in the second half. Your 4th left back getting hurt, so you have no more left backs, and you have to play Leimer at left back, and Boué comes on to play right back, and then Ta getting a yellow and Kim subbing in. There were so many changes to that back line that, considering the changes, I thought they were really solid. And some of the subs, Boué, Leimer at left back, Kim, might have even been more solid than the starters. Now, maybe Chelsea was more tired in the second half. Their attack was certainly much worse in the second half, so you can take that into consideration too. But regardless, you only give up 1 goal to Chelsea's attack. I'll take that. And then you had Kimmich and Pavlovic in the midfield. I thought they were both solid. Kimmich I thought was better. Pavlovic had a few shaky moments here and there, but nothing that directly led to a goal. So I'll give it to him. Goretzka ends up coming in that second half and probably was a little bit more solid than Pavlovic, but I still thought Kimmich was the best out of the midfield. But it wasn't Kimmich. It wasn't a Kimmich masterclass, but he was probably the best midfielder for Bayern. And then the attack, we already talked about him. Olise on the right wing, Gnabry at the 10, Diaz at the left wing, and Kane at the 9. Kane had a brace. Kane was probably the most active attacker throughout the match, I thought. But other than that, a few misses. Kane had a miss. Diaz had a miss. Olise had a miss. But overall, a solid match from the attacking group, I thought.
Yeah, it was a lineup we expected from Bayern, certainly, and Chelsea as well. It was a lineup I predicted that I would have went with if I was the manager for Chelsea. You saw Gusto, who did make an appearance, bombing up and down that right-hand side. Cucurella on the other side. Tosin and Chalobah, the center backs. I said all week they're the weak link of this team. We saw it again today. They will not win you a Champions League. They will not get you into a quarterfinal of the Champions League. So my prediction might actually change if I could go back based on what I've seen from them. But it is what it is at this point. They clearly didn't buy one, so Maresca is just going to have to be left being disappointed in that. We all know he wanted a center back. Then you had Reece James, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez in the midfield. Thought Reece looked great. Caicedo had his moments. Enzo had some moments as well. And then it was Neto, Palmer, Pedro up top in the attack. 4-3-3. Kind of depends how you look at it. This is what Chelsea went with against PSG, as I had been talking about in the lead up to this match. I think it was a correct strategy by Maresca to go with this lineup. Again, unfortunate that the individual mistakes just completely wiped away any tactical things that you would thought to be doing in this match if you're Chelsea.
Yeah, I wouldn't be all doom and gloom. I mean, you are going to get Colwell back eventually when it matters. You could say. I mean, that's what all the Bayern fans say, at least, about Davies and Musiala, that you'll get him back when it matters. So we'll see about that. I think Chelsea is going to be fine in the long run. I think this never was going to be an easy match for them in Munich, and I do think that Bayern played well. I was really, really happy with Chelsea's midfield. It's fun. It's hard to say happy as a Bayern fan because I'm actually mad about it, but looking at it through a Chelsea lens, I think Chelsea won the midfield today. I think James and Caicedo were better as a tandem than Kimmich and Pavlovic were. Yeah, but that was outside of Palmer. And I guess Sanchez did good too. But outside of, I'll say, Palmer, Sanchez, and the midfield, Chelsea had some struggles for sure. We talked about those mistakes. Gusto didn't get quite up into the play like you would want him to throughout an entire match. And Enzo Fernandez had that one moment in the very beginning, but other than that was a little bit quiet. I thought he actually did really good defensively, but like offensively was pretty quiet. And then the rest of Chelsea's attack outside of Palmer was relatively quiet. So I mean, just getting into the match here, I do want to talk about that Enzo Fernandez chance because minutes into the match, I think it was Palmer who kind of started this, but really, I said it during the live stream, cut through Bayern's line like a knife through butter, hot knife through butter, and finds Enzo Fernandez, who could have had a brilliant shot if he just would have had a little bit lighter of a first touch. Not saying that's an easy thing to do, but he really could have put one in the back of the net early there.
Yeah, his first touch let him down a little bit, and then I think Limer ended up with a nice block there. Chelsea looked good in that first half. I did like a lot of what I saw from them with that plan. I liked what Palmer and Gusto were both doing. Gusto at times was shockingly high up the pitch. Loved that. He was even in the right pocket at times, and then Palmer would be out wide. I think they had some good communication. I think if Gusto had any attacking ability whatsoever, he would be one of the best right wing backs in the entire world on this Chelsea team. And I think this would be the lineup that I would go with every single match because they're so dynamic in those spaces. I don't know defensively if this would work, but maybe I'm just throwing Estevao in for Gusto against some teams like this. And then if you can cover him defensively and have him with Palmer in those spaces, Chelsea would be an unreal team in the attack. And I don't know if we'll see that at some point, but Or even throw Neto there and then figure out left wing. But you just need somebody else in those spaces that Gusto gets in, because it's so effective and such a great outlet. And it's just unfortunate that it's not somebody else there.
Yeah, I like that idea of trying Esteval there. I'm a big fan of Esteval. I know he's young, I get it, but I told you this during the match. I would have brought him in even sooner, I think. Second half, guys started to get tired. Both teams, guys got tired, but the pace of the match just slowed down a lot. That first half, things were so frantic. In a fun way to watch, but in kind of a chaotic way as well, with both sides just pressing really hard. And I love to watch that as a fan. I love that kind of football. Maybe a little bit more so when it's not my team in the Champions League, but no, I'm just kidding. I like it. But yeah, Bayern's attack was firing, and they were firing it down that right-hand cylinder. They were going right at Cucurella, and he was having I think Cucurella was having a good match in terms of locking up Olise for the most part. But the other side, too, Bayern's left-hand side, Chelsea's right-hand side, Bayern was hardly going to that left side, was hardly going through Stanisic and Diaz. So really tried to keep things through that right-hand side as the match gets going there. And we see the first goal happen from a run by Olise up the right-hand side and crosses it in for Diet Upamecano, who doesn't even get to the ball because it goes off Chalobah's knee and into the goal for the opener. Really sucks if you're Chelsea at that point, because, as I said, Chelsea was playing just as good, if not better, than Bayern in the opening 20 minutes or so.
A little unfortunate if you're Chelsea here. In my opinion, a phantom call for Bayern to get a free kick. Refs just don't know how to ref Caicedo. Then Kimmich kicks it off the ref. Again, this goal wouldn't have happened if that doesn't happen, because then he goes free kick to the other side and Olise crosses it in, and Chelsea make the mistake, to be clear, but just shows you that it was not Chelsea's day. A lot of things just going wrong. And it's a good cross by Olise, credit to him. And unfortunate for Chalobah, for sure. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Bayern does start to turn it around a little bit. You see in the 27th minute, Kane gets that pen, again, goes down in the box. Caicedo takes him down, and a great pen by Kane. Sanchez guesses wrong, but even if he guesses right, he's not going to get there. Just a fast pen in the bottom corner of the net. Really impossible to save. So at that point, 2-0 for Bayern, but not for long.
Yeah, it's tough. Caicedo found himself on the wrong side of Kane. You really have to be on the side between your man and the goal. He found himself on the other side, tries to correct it with a challenge. It's pretty much going to be a pen most of the time. I don't want to be too wah ref. I didn't love the ref, not just because of that. I didn't love the ref, so I'm not going to call it just that play. It's a penalty. Kane rightfully takes it, hits it. And that's what I think sucked, is Bayern was up 2-0 fairly quick after it had seemed like Chelsea played pretty well. I think when that happens, it's just unfortunate. And you're right, Chelsea did, to their credit, come right back and score a quick goal, kind of on a little bit of a frantic play. I think they win the ball back. I want to say it was Caicedo, a little bit of a scramble. It gets out to Palmer. Then we see Ta take down Pedro. You could almost blame this goal on Ta, because if he doesn't try to take out Pedro, he's maybe back defending, because then we see Gusto and Palmer kind of with a 1-2 give and go. Palmer puts in an unreal goal. I mean, Palmer in these big matches is one of the best players in the world, and it was tough. Bayern really couldn't do anything to stop it at that point once Ta had vacated, I think.
Yeah, you can definitely say that goal doesn't happen if Ta doesn't take down Pedro there. So, yeah, I mean, just to go back to Kane quick, I want to give Kane credit, because the way Kane uses his body is underrated. I think most people don't notice that, or it's kind of tough to see that live, but the way that he gets on that side of Caicedo isn't the easiest thing in the world. I mean, he has to kind of put a move on and then also keep the ball. So again, just credit to Kane for that. And then, frantic play, middle of the pitch. Ta takes down Pedro. Everybody's screaming, everybody's yelling, and Palmer cuts right through again, just as he had been doing this game, cuts through Bayern's defense and puts through a beautiful goal. And, I know we might not like it, but I will give the ref credit because he did play advantage on this play. Ends up giving Ta a yellow card, but Chelsea gets a deserved goal there. So at that point, it's 2-1, and a great shot by Palmer.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna bitch about individual plays for this ref. All I want to make known is that during this stretch of the game, he had zero control of the game.
No doubt.
And that's my problem with refs. When you're not calling early fouls, then you're calling some that look identical on both sides. Then you're making decisions kind of after the fact. The pen call was just late, whether it's a pen or not. Like, it was just late. It was kind of weird. It was confusing. Did they go to VAR? I'm not really sure. He's not making it clear to anybody, so all the players are confused on both sides. Then there's also, right away, he misses like a corner throw-in situation. He's clearly not explaining and communicating well with captains at all. And I think that's what made it tough. And then he ends up having to give a yellow to Enzo Maresca because he's pissed off at the João Pedro thing. Again, when you have a ref with no control combined with a camera crew and Paramount crew that have zero ability to show us the play.
That was worse. That was even the worst part.
Zero brain and power to know how to be on things at the right time. So we're so confused, and that's what sucked, because I was so confused at times with the ref. When play was starting back up,
Yep.
We missed the third goal, which we'll get
Completely, yeah.
Just insane how much we missed and how much confusion there was. That made viewing very tough at times.
It did. And I'll say, too, you might as well have just watched us instead of watched the actual broadcast, because you would have seen about as much by watching us as we saw watching the real broadcast with some of these questionable camera decisions, cuts, angles, whatnot. And I will say, that makes me feel a lot better about my job as a photographer. I do a little bit of video and like AV work sometimes too. And people always say stuff about productions and whatnot. You see something on the biggest stage, professionals who get paid a hell of a lot more than me doing this, and they still can't do the job. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've always noticed this about Champions League. It seems like the broadcasts, soccer in general.
I'm not a fan of Paramount.
Yeah, at times they just don't do well with camera and picking things up after there's breaks, because you want to show replays, but you really can't at times. So I do get it. It's tough. I know it's a tough business, but at the end of the day, it's the Champions League, and it's supposed to be the best product on earth. So you do have to do better.
You do. So after that, really, back to the match now. I think Bayern starts to get things under control end of the first half. But really that moment, we'll say 20th to maybe 30th or so, chaos. Complete chaos. But after that, the match just gets under control. Bayern gets things under control. And we go into halftime. Again, at halftime, I was feeling like both teams were about even. That's just how I thought they were playing. I thought it was pretty open. I thought they both had chances end to end. And then we see Kompany actually go to his bench at halftime, and Kim comes on for Ta, which was smart. Turned out to be one of the best subs of the game for sure, based off how Kim played in my mind. But it was smart because Ta was on a yellow, and you just can't risk a red. You just can't. So happy with that sub, and really happy actually with how Kim played. I got to hand it to him.
Yeah, I did think Kim played well. So if you're Vincent, maybe trust one of these other center backs and don't burn your other guys out.
Yeah, I would say definitely, not even maybe.
Especially when Ta has clearly been your worst center back all year so far. Not that he's even been that bad, but Upamecano is clear of him. Yeah. So you might as well start playing Kim a little bit to rest these guys. Ta gives up, as we mentioned, a huge part of that goal for Chelsea. So yeah, that was a good move. I wouldn't have made subs at half if I was Chelsea, and they did not. The problem with it was the first 5 to 10 minutes of that half, Chelsea looked really great and then fell off a cliff because they didn't then make a sub early on in the second half. Maresca reacted far too late, in my opinion. We could see for about 10 to 15 minutes there, starting in the 50-minute mark, that Chelsea were getting tired, slowing down. You have to react in these games quickly, especially against a good opponent. He didn't, and that's unfortunately why the second half looked a lot poorer for Chelsea.
No doubt. I agree with you 100% there. If I'm Enzo Maresca, I'm not making any subs at halftime. You know, we go into the second half, and the 51st minute is where we see Sacha Boey has to come on for an injured Stanisic. And this is the one dark black spot on an otherwise great day for Bayern, is their third-string left back, Stanisic, goes down. And honestly, Stanisic is arguably their best right back as well. Obviously, has to play left back with Davies and Ito being out, but yeah, really sucks. Hope he's going to be okay. He tried to continue for a little bit and just couldn't. So Boey comes on, who, you know, Boey and Kim have been prone to huge mistakes in Champions League matches. Lights out in my mind from both of them. Awesome game from Sacha Boey, playing right back, and Konrad Laimer, who then had to shoot over to the left back spot, playing double out of position because you have Guerrero hurt as well. So you have Laimer, who's a midfielder who plays right back, who's now playing left back, and I was surprised with how well they played. Boey, Laimer, Kim, all of these subs. I'm counting Laimer as a sub, even though he wasn't really a sub, just because he played a new position. Second half here, played great, and I gotta hand it to him. I have to tip my cap because they really played great. And sure, maybe Chelsea was slowing down. Maybe Bayern was just overall playing better. The attack was playing better, so it made it easier on the defense anyways. But still, I'm not going to take anything away from them. And that's the point that you just mentioned where, yeah, after that, it kind of became all Bayern, and we saw a flurry of shots. Diaz had a shot that he probably could have or should have made. Kane had a shot that, if you're Harry Kane, should have made it for sure. And then Olise had a shot, best shot of the match. I mean, easiest shot of the match, I should say. One of the worst shots of the match, where he essentially just has to slide a ball into the corner of the net, point blank, basically about halfway from the pen to the net in the box. And I don't know if he just didn't think Sanchez was going to be able to react or be this aggressive / make this good of a save, but really just puts it in, and Sanchez is there to stop it.
Again, we knew coming into this match there'd be stretches like this. Maresca just too slow to react. Nothing was going on in the attack at all. Bayern was dominating possession, dominating chances. Guys were clearly getting more tired, and the back line was starting to fall apart. So you needed a couple huge saves from Sanchez and then a mistake from Gusto for Maresca to actually see that maybe I should make some subs. And it sucks because, again, just an individual mistake for that third goal. Gusto, a heavy touch, and then whether he's the one who tried to kick it or maybe, as you said, Serge touched it, who knows, and then it gets right to Kane, who scores. And it's a really nice finish. You know, maybe only Kane and a couple other guys score that goal, but it's such a gift right to them again. And that's what's frustrating ultimately. Even though you were pretty terrible in the second half, the mistake is what costs you the most. And if there's one large lesson to learn, it's just that you can't have mistakes in the Champions League, probably, especially against good teams. But I think Chelsea already knew that. So that's why it's tough to really grade this. Again, I said it in the beginning. It's tough to grade it if you're Chelsea. I'd probably just toss away the film for the most part.
Yeah, and I'll give Bayern credit here too, just because, again, they were knocking. I was pretty sure they were going to score. I mentioned that they were knocking. They were had to score eventually. The dam had to break eventually. And it did take a Chelsea mistake, sure, for that goal to happen. But I am proud of how they played in that time period. But a lot of those shots happened because of great link-up play and great attack and fluid attackers anywhere on the pitch. You know, these guys are lined up. Diaz is the left wing, Gnabry's the 10, Olise is the right wing, and Kane's the 9. But any of those 4 players are going to be anywhere on the pitch at once. Combined with Laimer bombing up there, combined with Stanisic and then Boey, and Kimmich at times too. So, you know, you have all these guys contributing to this really deadly attack, this however many headed hydra of an attack that Bayern has now.
Agree with you there. They were doing all the right things, deserved to score. It's just unfortunate that in the moment, and that's kind of why it's tough, because as I said, Bayern dominate the second half. And so do they deserve to score? Yes. It's just tough that in those moments, and that's what's kind of beautiful about soccer in a lot of ways. We mentioned, the 2012 final, for example, you could have 50 shots and lose because you could say, just like the second half, Bayern dominate, but in those moments they won, so that's the kind of the interesting thing. You just have to take advantage of those moments. Chelsea were not close to taking advantage. Bayern did take advantage in most of the moments, and that was the difference.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of that comes from experience, and Chelsea will have that experience before long with this season in the Champions League. But again, Bayern they have these guys like Kane, Kimmich, Neuer, who have just been there, and they've just stepped up when it counts, and they did it again today. Goretzka comes on then for Pavlovic in the 64th, shortly after that goal. Another good sub in my mind. Pavlovic wasn't really doing it for me today. Again, I don't think he was bad by any means, but he just wasn't doing it for me. So I was happy to see Goretzka come on there, especially when you're trying to really shore up the game. Again, Goretzka has a lot of experience in these moments, Champions League moments as well. So it's good to get him on there and provide, I guess, a little bit of a different profile and fresher legs at that point. So then Enzo Maresca finally goes to his bench.
Yeah, and what minute was this at the first sub?
68th.
So 68th, we see... Where's the 68th?
Garnacho and Neto, and then Garnacho for Neto and Santos for James.
Yeah, so two good subs at this point. Again, too little, too late, but loved Garnacho coming on. He was more of a goal threat than Neto, so that made a ton of sense in the moment. And again, Neto really didn't do much on that side against Limer. And then when it was Bue, you got to be licking your chops thinking this guy is not up to my standard. And Neto kind of just didn't do that at all. So loved that sub. Santos for James made a ton of sense. Santos, fresh legs, more of a true midfielder, is going to do all the little things and still provides you with some threat to score a goal. So those subs I was really great with, and I think both of those players shined. So here's where I talk about how some of the lessons you learned were not macro, they were micro, based on individual players. We talked about the mistakes. I won't harp on those anymore. These are two players that need to see more minutes. I understand they're new to the squad, but Santos, what he showed me, his through ball to Palmer that was just barely offsides, winning the ball back in times, really crisp with his passing. He needs to get more minutes, and yes, those minutes need to come in place of Enzo Fernandez. Garnacho, we saw what he could bring against Brentford. He looked great again against Bayern, I thought. I mean, I think he was the biggest threat in the second half for Chelsea.
Yeah, maybe Palmer still, but Garnacho was, if not Palmer, for sure Garnacho. I agree with you. I would like to see and think that Santos will be getting some more minutes over Fernandez going forward, because, yeah, Fernandez, he's kind of been hit or miss for me this year, and Santos, you need to see what you have out of him, and you already know because of what he did on Strasbourg, but you need to see more of what he's going to do for you on Chelsea, and so far you like what you've seen from him.
Yeah, and then, eventually Esteval comes in as well. Enzo finally comes out. I think Esteval showed a lot as well. I think, again, he's going to need some time. You got to be patient with him, but what he shows in flashes, he has arguably more potential than anybody on this team except for Cole Palmer in terms of what it takes to deliver a goal from an assist or a pass. So the fact that he can get some minutes, 15 minutes-ish, in Munich away in the Champions League is going to do wonders for the kid. I just think Chelsea have options for sure. We saw against Brentford, it seemed like the depth was a little bit lacking in some of the guys that started, but today, when you play this different type of lineup, 4-3-3 with some different pieces, then it makes your bench almost a little stronger. And we definitely saw that. Unfortunately, it just didn't bear any fruits today.
Yeah, Estevao is such a dangerous player, can basically create something out of nothing. And there's a lot of times where if Chelsea's attack is getting tired or it just isn't clicking or isn't humming on the day, Estevao comes in and can provide you that life. Again, I said it before, but I would have put him in sooner. I really would have put him in sooner. And I think he can be kind of like a wing back, but not a true wing back, if you know what I mean.
The guy you want for that is on your team, and it'll never happen. It's Reece James. Like,
Yeah.
He's a true wing back. Like, I kept saying Gusto's the perfect guy for that. Old prime Reece James in this Chelsea squad, in that lineup, and then Santos in midfield, take Gusto out. That is a world-beating, world-class team. If Reece James could do that Gusto role that we're talking about here, in that wing-back role,
For sure.
because he can score the goals, he can cross the ball, the things that Gusto can't do, and that's what I think sucks. And I think about Neto on the other side too, is because he's so good at that, but he kind of lacks the ability then to cut inside and score a goal. So that's where Estevao maybe can do things a little differently, but then Estevao lacks the running up and down defensive nature that Neto has. So it's just tough. You don't quite have the player on either side for this lineup that would be ideal.
Yeah, again, I mean, I say it enough, but Reece James I just think is a world-class player and is such an important player for this Chelsea team. But Chelsea has a lot of different profiles, especially in their attack and midfield, that they can kind of play around with and toy around with. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what they do going forward. But again, like this Bayern team is a really good team. So, especially when you look at how you play in the first half and your first Champions League match back in a couple years. A lot of these guys, it's their first Champions League match at all. So you got to just take what you can from this and throw away what you don't want to, I guess, and move on. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that really happened throughout the rest of this match, again, it was Bayern was controlling the play from then on. We saw a few really good Chelsea chances, though, towards the very end. Olise and Leimer pick up cards, and Leimer's always liable to pick up a yellow. Then Palmer gets that goal in the 90th, where he was just a hair offside, and it was another, great run and great goal from Palmer. I guess unfortunate that he was just a little bit off. I think he was off, but it was really close. It was really, really close.
And I mentioned the ball from Andre Santos. This is something that he can provide in your team, and he needs to get more time. You could argue this goal was smoother than Chelsea's first, which was an unreal goal. I mean, the ball getting through here by Santos was so supreme, and the slight nick by Palmer to get past a top 3 keeper in the world, that's an absurd goal. So unfortunate that it was ruled off ultimately, but yeah, again, you're going to want to see more of Santos coming up here for Chelsea.
Yeah, and, last minute, we're into stoppage time here. 91st minute, Kompany makes a couple more subs, which I'm fine with. Bischoff on for Gnabry, and Jackson on against his team, Chelsea, on for Kane. So pretty much too late at that point for them to do a whole lot. But I guess nice to use all the subs you have.
Yeah, and Santos takes down Jackson, gets a yellow. I just like that foul. I do, because I've talked about how much I love Nico, and I'm going to support him when he's at Bayern, but not when he's playing Chelsea. And so I think it's just funny and a good play that you just kind of send a message to him and just say, hey, the game might be over at this point, but I'm just going to follow you. And that's kind of Santos' game too. Like when he comes in at the end here, you're just expecting to pick up a yellow, playing in the midfield, kind of being like a little dirty. But just thought it was kind of a nice, funny moment. I'm sure Nico probably appreciated it. He had his own humorous moment when he tried to score from the halfway mark and catch Sanchez out. So little tit for tat there with Nico.
We didn't do match awards. I could, I guess, give a couple shouts here before we
the ref
before we log off. I'm going to go with Harry Kane for the man of the match for Bayern, of course. I think all the attackers played good, so maybe I'll give the Robin to the combination of Olise, Serge, and Diaz. I'll do that officially. That's the Robin. Kane's the man of the match, Batman. Underrated, I will give to Upamecano, because I think he did a solid job defending, and we didn't talk about him very much, but he just did solid. And then defender, I already used the defender and the whole attack, but I'll give it to Kim for coming in and being solid. Well, at the end of the day, Bayern gets it done, 3-1 in the Champions League. Over Chelsea. Again, Chelsea's a very good team, very good, diverse attack. So it was good for Bayern to get this one done and only allow 1 goal and score 3 themselves. So great start for the UCL for Bayern. Got to keep it rolling. Bayern now has Hoffenheim over the weekend in the Bundesliga, and Chelsea goes to play Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Going to be a tough weekend. Chelsea really need to get 3 points this weekend. I cannot stress that enough. This game against United is more important than the Bayern Munich game, just in terms of what it means. I know the UCL is absolutely massive, so that might be crazy to say, but I would take a win here any day of the week if it means losing to Bayern. You're not expected to win that one necessarily, so hope the boys come ready to play and can quickly flip the script. As I said, you throw the tape in the trash, don't even think about it, and just focus on United.
Yeah, and as far as Bayern goes, keep rolling in the Bundesliga. Hoffenheim is in 6th in the table. Very good start for Hoffenheim. I thought they were going to be garbage again this year, but they're looking good. And they have one of the best keepers in the league, Oliver Baumann. So, interestingly, Hoffenheim beating Leverkusen, losing to Frankfurt, and beating Union Berlin. So, Bayern's going to have to stay on their toes. Kompany's going to have to learn maybe to rotate a little bit. I'm assuming some of the guys are going to be tired, but they have a stretch in the end of October, beginning of November, where they're going to be playing 7 matches in 21 days, so 3 matches a week, and they're just going to have to keep it up, because so far Bayern has looked great, and they showed it again today, and I'm proud of how they played today, and now we just move forward, and we just pedal to the metal. Keep it up.
Keep the momentum rolling if you're Bayern. Absolutely. If you're listening, please really listen to this next, about 15 seconds I'm going to play here. This is the true man of the match.
Let's go.
Waking up around 3, fill myself with caffeine, just trying to kill the feeling. Would you rather me lie or just say nothing at all? 'Cause I got a feeling.
That's right. We'll send us off with some Dylan. Check him out. Brighton fan,
Unreal.
but still check him out on Spotify and Apple Music and all the listening platforms. Mia san Mia.
Up the Chelsea.